Hi all, in this lecture we'll start with our module 2 of digital communication, signaling over AWGN channels. In this module we are going to learn these topics. Let us start with the introduction. As you have studied in the previous module, that is in module 1, we have learnt about line codes. What are these line codes? These line codes are the digital representation of analog signals or the electrical pulse representation of your analog signal, okay, which is converted. Analog is converted to digital bit stream is now represented using some electrical signals or the pulses, okay. And with this transition from analog to digital has been empowered by several factors. What are these factors? First one is ever increasing advancement of digital silicon chips, digital signal processing and computers, which in turn has prompted further enhancement in digital silicon chips, thereby repeating the cycle of improvement. Second one is improved reliability, which is afforded by digital communications to a much greater extent than is possible with analog communications. Third one is broadened range of multiplexing of users, which is enabled by the use of digital modulation techniques. And the fourth one is communication networks for which in one form or another the use of digital communications is the preferred choice, which we have studied in CCN. Okay, these are the factors which we can consider why digital communication is more relevant than analog communication. Okay, now quickly understand what is this AWGN channel and all. Let us go with an example. Okay, so you can see here this is a AWGN channel model. Sorry, AWGN model of a channel where we are assuming ones and zeros are emitted by a source computer, okay, and they are encoded into two distinct signals denoted by S1 of t and S2 of t respectively, which are suitable for transmission over the analog channel. Okay, combined together S1 and S2, we can denote it as Si of t, general term. I can take values 1 and 2, correct. The energy of these modulated signals S1 and S2 is given by EI is equal to the integration from 0 to TB Si of t whole square dt, where I is equal to 1 and 2. First symbol will be having an energy of E1, second will be having an energy of E2. And what is the duration of each symbol? It is 1 bit duration, 0 to TB. Now this is our Si of t is our modulated signal. This is our modulated signal. Now when it goes through the when this signal goes through the channel, noise will be added into the transmitted signal, and this noise were modeled as additive white Gaussian noise. Okay, that's why we call the channel as additive white Gaussian channel. So at the receiver we are not going to get the exact signal which we have transmitted. Si of t was our transmitted signal here. Si of t was our transmitted signal with this energy, but we also have a noise added at the receiver end. Okay, x of t is the received signal which involves our transmitted signal along with some noise term called as w of t, okay, in the interval 0 to tb. Now our what is our challenge? In presence of this noise, the receiver has to make a decision in favor of S1 of t or S2 of t, and it has to decode our messages, say m1 of t and m2 of t, which is 1 or 0. Occasionally errors will occur because of the probability of very high noise at the receiver end, and our intention is to make noise as much as minimum through designing a very optimal receiver. So the probability of error, we need to understand how it can be calculated, and then we can go for having a receiver which can counter the error. Correct? So the probability of error is given by this equation. Pe is equal to pi 1 p of m cap is equal to 0 bar 1 is sent. That is, when 1 is sent, what is the probability of estimating as 0 at the receiver? Okay, probability of estimating as 0 wrongly when 1 is sent. Second term is pi 2 into p, that is probability of estimating symbol 1 when there is when you have sent a 0 actually. So here pi 1 and pi 2 are the prior probability of transmitting symbols 1 and 0 respectively. What is prior probabilities? These are occurrence of ones and zeros in a sequence. As I have already explained, the prior probabilities can be most of the time taken as 1 by 2 or 0.5. So here the first term and the second term involving P are called as conditional probability. That is, you have sent 1 and at the receiver it has been detected as 0. That is one kind of error probability. Another kind of error probability is you have sent a 0 at the receiver, the estimation m cap is equal to 1. Okay, these two probabilities are responsible for having a probability of error at the receiver. Now what we need to think is how we can have an optimal receiver so that this error probability is minimized, and how to choose a set of signals s1 of 2, s2 of 2 up to s1 of t, s2 of t and up to sm of t for representing the symbols m1 m2 up to m suffix capital M respectively, since this choice affects the average probability of symbol error. Okay, so there are two issues we need to understand: how we can design an optimal receiver minimizing the error average probability of symbol error. Second one, how we can modulate this s1 s2 up to sm of t are nothing but the modulated symbols. Here one, we need to choose how optimal design of a receiver can be done. Another one is how we can modulate m1 to mm signals using different functions, okay, so as to minimize the error. The issues which were discussed till now can be addressed by understanding the uh, question of how the signals can be geometrically represented, or geometric representation of signals will be an essential tool where we can understand which modulation technique we can choose so as to minimize the error, and which receiver, how the receiver can be designed to minimize the average probability of symbol error. So let us move on to the geometric representation of signals. In geometric representation of signals, we are going to represent m energy signals Si of t as linear combination of n orthonormal basis functions, where n is lesser than or equal to m. That is, you have modulated signals Si of t which are modulated by n orthonormal basis functions. Here the orthonormal basis functions you can think of the carrier signals, and the number of carrier signals are less than number of energy signals. Okay, energy signals are Si of t. They S, where S is I is equal to 1, 2, 3 up to m. Okay, and the corresponding equation is given here. Si of t is the linear combination of n orthonormal basis function. And what is this Si of j? It is the coefficient of the expansion defined by Si of j is equal to 0 to t Si of t phi j of t dt, where I is varying from 1 to m, j is varying from 1 to n. J signifies number of basis functions, I signifies number of the energy signals you want to transmit. What is the coefficient of that? The coefficient of each energy symbol is Sij. The real valued basis functions phi1, phi2 up to phi n of t form an orthonormal set, by which we mean that the integration from 0 to t phi a of t to phi j of t dt is equal to delta of ij is equal to 1 if I is equal to j, 0 if I not equal to j, where delta of ij is the Kronecker delta function. It is named as Kronecker delta function. What it means is, the equation 7.6 states two conditions. The first is, basis functions will have unit energy. The basis functions which we use will have unit energy. And the second condition it states is, the basis function are orthogonal with respect to each other over the interval 0 to capital T. The meaning here is simple. Phi 1 and phi 2, or phi 1 and phi 3, phi 2 or phi 3. Likewise, these symbols, or the basis functions, the basis functions are independent of each other. Linear combination of one basis function will not lead to the another basis function. That is what we can call as orthogonal. They are statistically independent signals, where the integration will lead to 0 if I is not equal to j. From that only we can conclude whether the two basis functions are orthogonal or not. If I multiply phi I of t with, if j is also equal to I, then it will become phi I of t whole square dt. Then only you will get the resultant energy as 1. Or if I is not equal to 0, this resultant energy will be 0. Such kind of signals we need to choose as our basis functions. That is the requirement. Okay, that is the requirement in representing signals in geometric form. Now let us go with an example of generation and detection of signals. Okay, let we have from n number of symbols, say the signal Si1, Si2 up to Sin, each of which added with Okay, it should have been multiplier. Okay, this should have been multiplier, this also multiplier, this also should have been a multiplier. It is not a summer. Here it is summer, correct? Same here, it should have been a multiplier here. So what we can think is, say we are given with some 1 to n number of symbols denoted by SI1, SI2 up to SIN. We can use the first scheme where we multiply the incoming stream by the orthogonal basis function phi1 of t, phi2 of t up to phi n of t, and we will sum it together to generate Si of t, which is governed by this equation. Okay, the equation number 7.4, this one. And this scheme is called as synthesizer. Synthesizer is nothing but your modulator, you can think of. Now similarly, at the receiver end, what we have, we are assuming the same transmitted signal is received, which is Si of t. We will apply this to n number of orthogonal basis functions, correct? N different paths are here, each is having a multiplier. This should have been multiplier. Okay, it is a multiplier or product modulator. Okay, and here they are multiplying phi1 of t, phi2 of t up to phi n of t, followed by an integrator. The combined setup, we can call it as a correlators. There are n parallel correlators which will decode the transmitted symbols or the signals. Say Si1, Si2, Si up to n, which are same as our signals here, correct? So this circuitry is called as analyzer for reconstructing the signal vector Si, and the first circuitry is called as synthesizer. Accordingly, we may state that each signal in the set Si of t is completely determined by the signal vector Si, which is given by Si of 1, Si1, Si2 up to Sin, where I is 1 to m because you have m symbols and n orthogonal basis functions. Now let us see how the m symbols we can represent in a n-dimensional Euclidean space. M symbols means what? Consider an example where m is equal to 3, I is equal to 1, 2 and 3. So S1, S2 and S3 will be my vectors. And what is S1 vector? S1 vector will be now S11, S12 because n is only 2, correct? Next S2 will be S21, S22. S3 will be S31, S32. So likewise, 3 vectors we can project onto 2 orthonormal basis functions phi1 and phi2. Phi1 is on x-axis, phi2 is on y-axis. This you can consider, one is sine wave, another one cosine wave, correct? Using that we are modulating the signal. This is the modulated signals vectors. Here S1 is what? S1 is this vector. This point's projection is S12. sorry, S11. This point's projection on y-axis is S12 because this is the second basis function. Likewise, S21, S22, S31, S32 on the different basis functions. Okay, this is the representation of vector with respect to how the symbols, transmitted symbols, can be having an impact of basis function, okay, or the projection of symbols on basis function in x and y axis or the n dimensional space. Here only 2, n is equal to 2, two-dimensional space. If n is 3, z axis you have drawn, correct? Now the other important part is, it is customary to denote the length or the absolute value or norm of a signal vector Si by the symbol norm of Si. This is norm symbol, right? You have studied in vector calculus. The squared length of any signal vector Si is defined to be the inner product or dot product of Si with itself. You multiply Si transpose with Si, you are going to have the squared length of signal vector, which is nothing but inner product of or dot product of the Si. And this can be given by the summation equation, which you already know, because J is equal to 1 to n. It depends on how many basis functions are there. Depending on that, the coefficients you are going to calculate, Sij coefficients. Now let us move on to the next point, where another useful relation is, it is the Euclidean distance. Euclidean distance is given by this equation, Si minus Sk norm whole square, and based on the previous equation I can write this like this, and this summation is nothing but integration from 0 to t, okay, from the energy calculation equations. So we can write this. And what is this Si minus Sk Euclidean distance is? It is the dik between the distance between 2 points represented by the signal vectors Si and Sk. It is this distance between S2 and S1. This is D21 or D12, you can say. This one is the Euclidean distance between S13, S13 or S31. Similarly, this is S23 or S32, the distance between these 2 points. This is the Euclidean distance given by this equation 7.13. And to complete the geometric representation, another quantity we need to have is the angle between two vectors. That is angle between S1 and S2. You can name it as S12 or S21, S13, S31 or S23 or 32. Both are same, 23, 32, 13, 31. The angle will be same, right? So this angle is defined by the equation cos of the angle between vectors Si and Sk is the inner product of these two vectors divided by the product of their individual norms. This is the inner product, this is the norms. Okay, this completes the representation of geometric representation of signals, or the signal space representation of the transmitted signals. What we can summarize over here, any signal which we want to transmit, it can be transmitted by modulating it as a linear combination of orthonormal basis function phi1 and phi2. That's why we are talking about the projection of this one onto phi1 and this same vector onto phi2. And thereby what we can have is, we can have only limited number of unique orthonormal basis function or carrier functions, so as to modulate the signal effectively with reliable communication without much of the errors involved. Now we have understood how geometrically the transmitted signals can be represented on n dimensional Euclidean space, okay, using n number of orthogonal basis functions. The example used was n is equal to 2, two-dimensional. If n is equal to 3, three-dimensional space. N is equal to 4, four-dimensional space. Basically, we'll deal with only two-dimensional or three-dimensional space. Remember that. Now, another important relationship between energy content of signal and its representation as vector is, by definition, what is energy? Energy of a signal is defined by 0 to t square of the signal into dt. The signal, our signal vector is what? Our signal is what? It is not vector at, but the signal is what? Si of t. So si t whole square dt. I is what? 1, 2, 3. That is, there will be m different symbols present in that signal. So Si of t, how we can define Si of t? From this equation, previously what we have, this one, correct? Si of t is given by this equation. So using this equation here, what you can write? This is the first Si of t. The second Si of t, simply I will change the summation variable. J is equal to 1 to m n. I will put as k is equal to 1 to n, and this is Sik and phi k of t dt. Now interchanging the order will not be altered, the summation will not be altered, so we can interchange the order and we have the constants taken out from this particular integration. So these are constants, right? Sij and Sik, and the integration of this one, phi j and phi k. As we know, these are orthonormal basis functions. Or for orthonormal basis functions, the value of this integration will go to, it will become 1 if j is equal to k. From this condition, here you can see, if I is equal to j, this integration will be equal to 1, correct? Here if I say j is equal to k, then definitely we'll have this integration in, it becomes 1. So the summation I can take out, because only one summation is enough as the variable is same. Finally we can write Sij whole square, and this is nothing but norm square. Here it is, correct? This is nothing but norm square. So energy content of this signal is given by what? Norm square, or inner product of the signal itself. Thus, from the previous equation and this equation, what you can see is the energy of an energy signal S of t is equal to the squared length of the corresponding signal vector. The energy E of any signal is squared length of the vector Si of t. In the case of pair of signals Si of t and Sk of t, represented by signal vectors Si and Sk respectively, we may also show that this integration will lead to the dot product of these vectors. That is what stated over here. Okay, the inner product of the energy signals Si of t and Sk of t over the interval 0 to t is equal to the inner product or dot product of their respective vector representations Si and Sk. I hope you have understood the concept which we have discussed today, and if you have any queries, you can always contact me, or you can comment in the comment section.